Hello guys, welcome to this week's lap guide for the Sampsoid LMP3 Championship. This week we're going to Sebring. It's gonna be a 75-minute race, I believe, and it's in the dark. But to be honest, Sebring in the dark is pretty cool. It's one of the few tracks I actually like in the dark. And the combo itself is, for me, it was pretty difficult because it's a very flat track, of course, with a lot of bumps, and because I only did lap 1, the tires are just not up to temp, and it just generates a lot of understeer. So it's pretty difficult. But I think once the tires come into play and warm up a little bit, then it should be fine. But I haven't tested that. But I think, yeah, after like 3-4 laps, I think this will be quite a fun combo. A lot of good racing opportunity, a lot of places to overtake, and yeah, just it's a good racing experience, I think. So we're gonna do the same as normal. I'm gonna show you the raw lap, and then after that we'll go over the lap in iRacing itself. So I'm gonna do that now.
Sector 1 is quick. Sector 2 time is good.
That was your fastest lap of the session.
You've just done a 154.
Alright, so that was the lap. So it was a 154.645. The lap wasn't perfect. Especially T1 was bad, and Le Bon corner was bad, so the corner onto the back straight. I will show you these corners on another lap, on my previous best lap, because they were a lot better, as you like saw from the delta. You saw my delta drop there like by a lot. So I'll do this lap first, like the whole of it, and then we'll go back to the other lap to show you T1 and Le Mans corner. So let's go to iRacing. Alright, so T1 is basically in any car. What I do is for your braking and turn-in marker, you look for the kind of like kink in the wall. You don't really see it that well now, but like if you're when you're racing, you can definitely see it. If you're a bit further away, you can definitely see it there. So that is your braking and turn-in marker. You basically brake and turn in at the same time. There's not a lot of braking involved. It's just to get some weight up to the front and slow the car down a little bit, of course. But it's not heavy braking. You basically want to roll the car into the corner. So you look for the marker here. See, I start turning in a little bit already. About 50% brake for a very short amount of time before you start bleeding off to trail brake into the corner, basically. And then you want to get as close to the wall as you can, but not too early. So it's basically this cone here. That is your center apex point. That's where you want to be closest to the wall. I didn't do a very good job on this lap, so we'll just skim over this a little bit now. Basically, you want to be on throttle as early as you can, but there's just, especially in this lap 1 scenario, there is a lot of understeer, so you really have to figure this out, like when you can actually go on throttle. Because I'm steering into the corners so much here, and the car just tracks out and just keeps tracking out. So this doesn't feel great. As you can see by my steering movements, that's super bumpy. But you just want to just keep it in the track here. Like this is pretty good. You can even touch the gravel a little bit. There's a 1x a bit further, but it's not directly at the start. So turn 2, braking marker is the 3 cones. Maybe a little bit earlier if you want to be cautious. Very heavy braking zone because this is super flat and you want to get a lot of speed off here because this next section is very technical and very traction limited as well, so you just want to enter this corner correctly. So a lot of braking, heavy braking in a straight line. And then again, it's the 1 cone where you start turning in and start bleeding off the brakes. And then for the first curb, you basically want to skim this curb. You do not want to go fully over it because it just unbalances the car too much, and you just lose the advantage. Like in a GT car, you can go fully over this, but this car just bottoms out and it just loses a lot of traction, so it's not worth it. So what I do here is like left side tires on the downslope part, just not fully over it. And then when it starts dropping off a little bit here, you can kind of go over it, but just do not take too much. And then ideally you want to be in the middle of the track here, but it's just not possible because if you do that, you just lose too much pace in the first corner here. So you will come out very close to this apex. And this one, it's a bit of a choice. It's a bit dangerous, but it's definitely the fastest way. So I just fully yeet over this, like just jump your 2 right wheels over the grass basically, and then come back down here. It's very bouncy, it's very sketchy, so if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then I wouldn't suggest you doing it, but it is the fastest way. And you do this because you do want to come out all the way to the right for this corner, because this is there is so much speed to be lost or found here. It's like 2-3 tenths if you do it correctly. So you want to be all the way to the right, and as soon as the curb ends, you start braking and turning in very minimal. You really want the least amount of steering angle you can get away with here, just because the car needs to gently roll through the corner, because you need you need traction on exit, and if you go in too hard, then the traction will be nowhere and you just lose time. So a bit of throttle in between here. So it's just throttle all the way, go down a bit, up again, and then you start braking. Again, a very short peak amount of braking, and it's only like 40%. Then instantly into trail braking. And here again, you want to skim this low part of the curb. Do not go over the high part, because you will have no traction whatsoever on exit. So just get as close as possible without unsettling the car. And then it really is the case of just straightening out your wheel as soon as possible, because you need early throttle here. You see here, I'm just holding throttle until I can straighten out my wheel before I go to 100%. It's instantly, okay, I straighten out my wheel, and then you go to 100% throttle. It's fine to use this outside. Just don't go too early, because as you see here, it goes from high to lower, lower, lower. You kind of want to be like after these lights where you want to hit it, because if you hit it before, it's just a bit too high. But this is fine. And this is because this is quite a long straight. Like, it doesn't really look like a straight, but it's quite a long straight, so there is a lot of time to be lost or found here. And then just closest direction to the next corner, so hug the inside here, track out when the curve ends, and we go towards the hairpin, which is also not easy. Your braking point is the 4 cones. I suggest braking a little bit before it, because you can brake later than the cones, but the chance of getting like micro lockups or an actual lockup are pretty substantial. And if you get that, your turn-in just disappears for the rest of the corner, and you lose a lot of time. So as you see here, I am braking a little bit later, but this is definitely like what you can get away with, especially in the first couple of laps. Like, the later into the race you go, the warmer your tires are and the lower the fuel you get. You can definitely start braking in deeper and deeper, but for the first lap, this is the maximum. Again, a very heavy braking zone, like 90%. Straight line braking. As you see here, I turn it even later than the 1 cone, because it's like an actual hairpin, and the exit has the little like S curve in it, so you really need to line up your car correctly here, because you want to straight line it out, because again, there's just not a lot of traction. So turn in very late, like at the beginning of the curve here, and then you really want to avoid the first part of the inside curve and just wait. And then it's full wheel lock, attack the inside. Again, 70% throttle until you can straighten out your wheel before going to 100%. So as you see here again, as soon as I straighten out my wheel, I instantly just plow it to 100% because you can. Try to not touch the sand here. Like, you can touch a little bit without getting a 1x, but as soon as you touch the sand, you just lose a couple hundreds. It's just traction, I guess. And then it's, again, shortest way to the next corner. Just hug all the curbs. Go to the other side. And then we come to the second semi-hairpin, I'd say. It's again a very heavy braking zone. But for this one, of course, the corner itself is a bit longer. Like, it's not as tight, but the exit is pretty tight. So you can go in a bit harder in this one. Start braking just after the 4 cones. Again, a very heavy braking zone. Like this one is even heavier than the one before for me. And once you reach the one cone, you start turning in and trail braking. And then you also really want to attack this inside, but you need to make sure like that you hit the apex just after the curve, basically, because I think I touched it a bit too early here. Because if you go too early here, the exit on this is just gonna be shit. Because you will track out all the way to the left, and then the kink after will lose you a lot of time. So as you see here, I'm touching it. Ideally, you want to be a little bit later than this even. Touch it, again, throttle plateau until you can straighten out your wheel. And then it's full throttle. As you see here, I'm still pretty far to the left, but this is acceptable. And then this corner, like, people always think this is not a difficult corner, but it is, because it's a combination corner from the last one. Because people don't realize how much time you can lose by going wide here or fighting your wheel too much. Because it will instantly just drop you a tenth if you go too wide. So what you want to do here is you want to graze this curb and hug the rest of the corner as tight as you can. So you really don't want to be out here. Like, you can, but it's just slower. So you want to hug this as tight as possible, and you want the least amount of wheel input you can get away with. The car gets pretty, not dangerously slidey, but it gets a bit slidey, so it just loses you time. So you hug this, and we go to Tower Corner, which is also a very difficult one on lap 1 because the understeer here is just generational, honestly. It's really bad. So you want to brake just after the 3 cones, and this is a very precise corner because you wanna attack the inside super hard, but ideally you don't want to touch it because it just unbalances the car because the curb is pretty high. But you need to be as close as you can. So we start braking just after, or just about on, the 3 cones, basically. Again, a very heavy braking zone, but very shortly lived. And then at the 1 cone again, you start turning in, and you're just gonna look and gauge for that perfect inside line. Trailing off the brakes, just hold the trail brake. As you can see here, like, I am just about grazing the absolute lowest part of this curve. Like, you don't want to go higher because it will unsettle your car so much and it will just bounce you out and understeer you even more. So again here, little throttle plateau because I'm still steering very heavily. Once I somewhat straighten up my wheel, I go 100%. If you want to go through here with pace, you know you're going fast enough when you actually touch the gravel on the outside, because you can touch a little bit of the gravel without getting a 1x, and it is definitely the fastest line. It's not sketchy, like it's pretty grippy still. As you see here, like, I'm fully over on the gravel with my left-hand side tires, and it's absolutely fine. And then we come into the S's. First little thing is, of course, just following the curves here. Don't make the track unnecessarily wide because you just travel more distance, you use more fuel, your lap times are a bit slower, so just follow the inside line basically. And then here in the second curve, you can kind of just fly over it, it's fine. And then just after the 3 cones, we start braking pretty heavily. Again, a very short peak moment of braking, and then you need to instantly go over to trail braking to attack the first inside curb of the S's. Again, like 80% peak, but it's a second at most, and then you start trailing off again. As you see here, this is not easy to do because, of course, this is a prototype and it's pretty low to the ground, so the car does bottom out a little bit, but I always prefer like going fully over this. You cannot go too far because there's a slowdown, so just find out where that is if you want to do this. You can also follow the curve with your right-hand side tires. It's a bit slower on entry, but you can gain the same amount of time. So, but this is just my preferred method, just fully going over it and just attacking it very hard. So you see here, I went in a bit too quick because I came out further to the left than I actually wanted. Ideally, you want to be in the middle of the track, but it's a bit of a compensation, like where you want to get the time. Do you want to get it at the first corner, or do you want to get it here? It's a bit of a middle ground. And then here, the second one, again, you want to fully attack this. I again prefer to go fully over it with my left-hand side tires this time, just to cut the track a little bit. It's very bouncy, so just be careful. Do not put too much steering input in because it definitely unsettles the car. And then because you're still going at a relatively high speed here, you want to keep as far to the left here as you can, but you cannot sacrifice too much speed. So again, it's a bit of a middle ground. Like these whole S's is just compensating one corner for the other. But you want to stay as far left as you can. Ideally, you want to have your left side tires dropped before the curve ends. So as you see here, I'm going over it now, still going to the left a little bit, just to open up Le Mans corner. And then it's just a little bit of trail braking to get the nose in and just aim for the corner. Here again, 65-70% throttle to make it to the corner and make it through. Again here, I go over it with my right side tires. And then it's just gauging when you can go on full throttle so you don't end up in the grass on exit. As you can see here again, it's very bouncy, but I do think this is the best way to do it. Again here, I touch a little bit of gravel on the outside. It's fine, but don't go much further than this because there is a 1x there and it gets kind of sketchy if you go further out. So, and then just re-enter the track before the curve ends and you're fine. And the back straight is just a straight, of course. So we get the setup to sunset. No need to shift to 6th here, of course, because we're only getting 250 kph. You're aiming for the 2 cones as basically your turn-in point and your trail braking point, because like actual braking is not really necessary here. You just want to slow down just enough and trail brake into the corner because you want to generate as much front grip as you can, which is very difficult on that one in this car. So it looks ugly, but it works. So the 2 cone, you start braking, maybe a little bit later even, start braking and turning in at the same point. Oh, a lot later actually, my bad. Yeah, so okay, so we use the 2 cone as our turn-in marker. So you basically, like, there's so many different lines into this corner. I always take a bit of a middle ground. I see people going very wide on the beginning, or you see people attacking the inside very hard at the beginning. I prefer like a bit of a middle ground. So I start turning into 2 very lightly, And then I choose basically the middle of the road. Like I want to be with my right hand side tires like on the yellow line here. And then you want to let the car track out. So the best way to see this is like your apex points are basically entry apex is the yellow line, mid corner outside apex are the lights. That's where you want to. So this is where you want your car to go back to there. So it's a lot of semi braking, semi trail braking, and then it's such a patience game before the car actually comes back to you and you actually start feeling it going back to the inside. On this one, you do want to attack this inside wall here as much as you can, but it's but it's very difficult because the car just doesn't really go there. So you want to get close to here, and then you have the actual exit barrier, and you basically want to be as close to this as possible. As you see, like I'm full throttle before I even reach that, which is pretty difficult because again here there is just so much understeer, and there is you don't even really see it in the road, but there is the nastiest bump on this track is right on corner exit here, which is very annoying. But so you kind of want to be holding your wheel as straight as possible when you go over this bump, just to unsettle the car the least. As you see by my steering inputs here, I'm still pretty heavily steering, but I'm trying to steer as as least as possible. But you can see by my steering movements here that it's super bumpy. Because that's not me. I'm not doing this. It's just the car is just smashing my wheel around. And then it's just gauging how far you can go on exit. Because again, a lot of understeer here. You can go all the way wide, but because this is the new like Sebring rescan, which doesn't have gravel here anymore. But this part is also super bumpy and just annoying, and it doesn't gain you any time in this car. So I would say just you can track over this white line, but do not go all the way to the outside. It's not helpful. And that is a lap around Sebring. Now I will show you. Let me check the lap. This one. I will show you T1 from T1 and Le Mans from this lap because it was just a lot better. So you see here, I'm looking for the deviation in the wall again. This one I just broke a lot less and I started trail braking a lot earlier, so I took a lot more speed into this. And look how this is really how close you want to get to the wall. Like it is scary and dangerous, but if you want ultimate lap time, then this is definitely what you have to do. And this makes me go full throttle, like basically before the middle apex. That's a good exit. Alright, then I'll show you Le Mans in this one as well. I'll show you at full speed first. So you do see me lifting on entry a little bit, or on exit I mean, just because I felt that I wasn't going to make it, so just a little lift just to get a bit more front grip, and yeah, it's a good T1. Now we will go to Le Mans. show you the whole S's here, because I think the S's in general were just better here. So, you see here, attack the inside, attack the inside. Yeah, just a lot earlier throttle, and I didn't get that much of a bounce over here, so that just works. And that is the lap. I'll show you the chase scan lap, and then that's it. This lap. All right, and that was it. I think the racing will be pretty good here. I think it's going to be a really fun race, especially because it's a longer race as well. If you want to know places where you can definitely feel safe are the first and second hairpin. They might even make the corners a lot easier. So I definitely suggest trying even just lifting a little bit before you actually start braking will give you a lot more confidence. Like I've done a million endurances at Sebring, and even if we don't have to save fuel, you just end up lifting at the two hairpins because it's just so much easier. So those are the two definite places, and into Sunset, the last corner, you can lift off a little bit before you start braking as well. That one does cost you a little bit of lap time, so it just depends how much you want to save. But the two hairpins are definitely the best. I hope I can race with you guys on Sunday. I don't know yet because I might have plans, but if the plans fall through, I'm definitely racing. So I hope to see you guys on Sunday. Have a good one and enjoy.